Today I'm going to demonstrate how to make a rock mat or a rock tray, sort of rock anything. Over the year and a half, 2 years that I've been doing this for, this is like the biggest hurdle in getting people to start implementing feeling more in their feet, is that when I tell them that they need to make a rock mat or spend more time outside, they don't want to take the time to do it because it doesn't seem simple. It's super simple to do. It just takes some time. It takes me about an hour to do one rock mat the size of your standard bath mat. You can do them in any size you want. It really just depends on what part of the house or office or yard you're putting it in, and then what kind of surface you want it for. So I'll show you some different examples of that, and then I'll go ahead and show you how to do it. The things I first started with were actually like a yoga or Pilates mat. So this yoga mat on the bottom here is your standard sort of yoga mat you could buy at like Target or Walmart. And it's sort of a medium thickness. This yoga mat's a little thicker. A Pilates mat's going to be even more thick, about an inch thick. The benefit of putting them on a mat is you can cut the mat in whatever shape you want and whatever size you want. So you can make mats for underneath your desk at work or in front of the kitchen sink or the oven. And using the yoga mats, the Pilates mat, you can change the thickness. What the thickness is going to do is it's going to determine how much cushion you have. So depending on how sensitive your feet are and how much time you already spend barefoot or how mobile your foot is will be determined on how much cushion you feel like you need. Also, the thing I recommend is using it on a mat, like a bath mat that's not very thick. So it's going to be more like on a floor or a piece of plywood. And then if it's too hard, you can always lay a cut of yoga mat or a towel over the top of it to make it a little bit softer. And then you'll just, when your foot gets used to it, you can just take away the towel and the mat. So there's ways to adapt it a little bit within the sensitivity of your foot. It also determines the intenseness of it with what type of rocks you use. I really can't stress the importance enough of using real rocks as opposed to plastic type things that are similar looking to rocks or maybe imitating rocks. The benefit of using real rock is that they're made from and of the earth. And so I feel like you may get still some of the physiological benefits of grounding or earthing, it's called, when you're using real rocks from the earth. So you would get the real rocks from the earth in like a landscaping section of any store that sells landscape or home improvement stuff. So like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or an Ace Hardware. Costco sometimes has things like that. Wherever really has places that you can buy landscaping materials, nurseries, any area there. I got mine at Home Depot in the landscape section, and it's just these big bags here. So they're pretty heavy, so to not hurt your back or overdo it, you might want the people from the store to help you load them into your basket, or get some help at home unloading them out of your car. But once you have them, you can do a lot with them. So I get different sizes. So people can test them out in the office to determine what's best for the foot. And then also it's what I make my mats from. I make my mats with all different types of rocks. So it's really interesting to my foot. You might start with just one type of rock or two types of rocks instead of a mixture of them. So these are in the landscaping section, super cheap. I mean, like really cheap. You've got pea pebbles, pond pebbles, river rock, or Mexican beach rock. Each company sort of calls them their own different name, but basically it just is the different sizes of it. One of the cons of buying in the Lancet section is that they're all pretty dirty still, the rocks. They don't wash them or anything before they put them in the bag after they get them out of the rock quarry or wherever they bag them up from. And so you might need to wash them first. And in that case, all I do is I dump them into like a strainer, like a food strainer that I would strain out my noodles or something after cooking, and I rinse them off in the sink and then just pile them up as they're clean. So if you're putting them outside, making a rock path or something outside, obviously you don't need to clean them unless you're gluing them to something, because it's helpful to have them a little bit wet and then also clean when you're gluing them so that the glue is more stuck. And then so I'll show you some examples of other rock mat opportunities. This one that I'll pull up, I made a while back ago, and I made it mostly so it is an example of a rock mat for the office. I don't know if you can tell, but I used a placemat. So I think I got it at like the dollar store or Ace Hardware for really cheap. I used a placemat because I wanted to see just different scenarios of surfaces and stuff, and I just wanted something small that I could literally like show the clients in my office. So this is old. I've made it probably almost 2 years ago now, so a lot of the rocks have popped off of the mat, and that brings me to one of the essential supplies that you'll need to get when making a rock mat. Especially if you use the Gorilla Glue that I like to use, is some sort of board for transportation. So what happens when you make a rock mat with the Gorilla Glue, the Gorilla Glue, why I like it, it sort of fills in all the spaces of the rocks around it, so it makes the rocks a lot more secure. But within that, it gets to be a little bit like an ice tray. You know how when the ice freezes, in order to pop the ice out, you twist it and that pops the ice right out? Well, that's what happens to the rocks. As soon as one of these mats bends, it's essentially like twisting an ice tray, and then the rocks pop out of the glue. So you just have to be careful with that. Obviously with the placemat, I can hold it pretty steady and not twist it around so it doesn't pop off too bad, but through all the transporting around the office, I've gotten all these rocks have sort of fallen off of it, which I can re-glue. Maybe I'll re-glue today since I've got the glue out. Sometimes at the house, if they pop off, I just lay them back on the surface because, again, it's just interesting to have my feet feel a little bit different things. The other step back to the placemat is it's very slippery. And so if you're going to use a placemat, like if you like that size for in front of the sink in the bathroom or something, you'll want to make sure you get one of the drawer non-skid mats that they sell like in the kitchen section at a grocery store. This just comes in a long roll, and you can cut it to the size of like the drawer so things don't slide around. So it works really great underneath rugs and underneath slippery rock mats that are made on the placemats. I'm also going to actually make a rock mat just on this mesh because I want to see if it provides a little bit more flexibility and I have less of the popping off of the rocks. So that'll be my little trial for today's rock mat making. Obviously the glue is going to seep through the hole, so it's really important to have some sort of like butcher paper on the ground or another piece of poster board. The other rocks I've been experimenting with, trying to get this easier for people, is the rocks that you would use in tiling your bathroom or tiling just a rock tile in your house. So again, this is available in the home improvement stores, like Home Depot and Lowe's. They're basically rocks already glued to like a mesh material. The benefit of these is they're already glued. So if you wanted to be extremely lazy and just buy one of these squares, this could be your rock mat, right? It's as simple as that. Or you can notice that maybe this is not the most interesting thing for your feet because if you see, they're just not All the rocks are very similar. They're not perfectly uniform like a aesthetic rock mat you would purchase on like Crate and Barrel, but they are fairly uniform because in the design of the house, people just find that more appealing. And so it's only going to be so interesting to your foot. Unfortunately, they don't sell any squares for this tiling of a bunch of different type of rocks. You can, however, get different, they sell different colors and different, there is a couple different sizes. Unfortunately, the smaller the rock, the more uniform they get. So in this type of situation, the bigger rocks provide a little bit more non-uniformity. So these are great. I'll probably use these today as part of the mat. And what I do is I cut up different strips of the rock and lay them down as a strip instead of rock by rock. A really simple way, probably the easiest and quickest way that Mike Boyle did after I showed him this. He's a strength coach, athletic trainer out in Boston. In Boston, being on the East Coast in the snow, he thought, oh, why don't I just use a boot tray and pour the rocks in the boot tray and use the boot tray anywhere. You can drill holes in the boot trays to make so it drains, and you can put it in the shower. Or you can just, again, put it in front of your sink, in front of your oven, wherever you're already going to be standing during the day. That's the key, is to make it in a spot where you're already standing or walking around, so it doesn't feel like you're carving out any extra time during the day to stand on rocks. So I have 3 of these boot trays in my office, and they have all different size rocks in here. And the reason I do that is, one, it's nice to walk across as like a whole sequence or a path of them, but 2, to show that clients, my athletes, how simple it is, like how easy it can be to make one for your own house. I got the the boot trays on Amazon.com. They're Yak Trax is the brand, YAKTRAX, and literally, I think they were like $10. I can't remember if it was a set of 3 for $10 or each of them was $10, so I spent $30. I don't remember, but totally has been worth it. So a boot tray, which apparently when you live places that snows, you put your boots in after you've been on the snow, so when snow melts, the water is contained in the tray instead of all over your floor. Makes sense. Works to put your rocks into, and you can actually still use it as a boot tray in that sense too, if you want to disguise it in your house and you live somewhere it snows. So these are the pea pebbles that I have in here. This next boot tray, I have a combination of the larger beach rocks or Mexican beach rocks, which is what that brand calls them. And then along with the river rock is like a medium or smaller type irregular rock. I have that half and half. You could easily mix them up. They don't have to be half and half like this. But again, these are tester trays that I have for my clients, so they can come in and walk on them and see which level of rock is best for their foot, because it's not a perfect science of what type of rock to start with versus the type of your foot or the injury or whatever you have. Everybody's different. Some people with really flat feet think the pea pebbles are the most uncomfortable thing they've ever felt. And on the flip side, some people I have with really rigid high arches, they think the pea pebbles are the most painful thing, and the big rocks are comfortable. So everybody's a little bit different, and that's why it's important to just test out what's right for you. The last of my 3 boot tray examples is, this is the pond pebbles, or the pond rock. And again, kind of like the river rock, a little bit bigger, sometimes a little bit more round. It's what you would normally see in like a duck pond or fish pond at the park. So these are really simple, easy to do. The boot trays can withstand quite a bit of weight, which is nice. Obviously, depending on what boot tray you get will be different. I have a very fancy decorative brass color one in front of my kitchen sink, so it doesn't look as cheap. It looks a little bit more fashionable, but it is metal, so it slides around on the ground a little bit more, so I need that rug or non-skid pad underneath it. So those are the different rock trays. An example of rocks on a placemat, like that's how crazy it could be. And then what my favorite spot for the rock mat is putting it on a bath mat. So I decided to put it on a bath mat, meaning like one of those non-skid bath mats you would put, right? It has suction cups on one side and some texture on the other side. And if you put it in a bath or a shower, so when you're showering, you don't slip from the soap, you know, and the soap's gone being slippery or whatever, just so you have a little bit more footing. So I like the idea of it being in the shower, because if we're trying to get between 20 and 30 minutes a day standing on something interesting for a foot, for me as a females traditionally like to spend a lot of time in the shower, right? We have a few more things to take care of in there, you know, washing our hair and shaving our legs, etc. So we have a little bit longer showers. So I'm like 20 minutes. I spend 20 minutes in the shower every day. So this is perfect for me. I have my rock mat in the shower. So by the time I'm done in the shower, I've gotten my 20 minutes on the rock mat out of the way. The other locations, I have it in my house in front of the kitchen sink and in front of the oven. So when I'm cooking dinner or, you know, making food or cleaning up from any meals, I'm also sitting on the rocks. There's different shapes, obviously, to the bath mats. I got this pretty traditional tan or beige square mat at Walmart for $4. Also at Walmart, if you prefer a circular pattern and translucent, they have these oval ones for, I think they're $6, so just a little bit more expensive. They do have, I found some the other day at Walmart that actually have a rock design on them already, so that might be cool if, especially you're someone who thinks that they don't like the look of the rock mats. If you maybe get a bath mat that has rocks painted on the bottom, it might blend in a little bit more. So, you know, there's not a perfect scenario. The yoga mats, if you want to cut up a yoga mat, plywood, a piece of plywood that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, same thing. Like, you can make them any shape. You can make them for any surface, whatever you would like. You can put them on a balance beam and work on your balance and walking at the same time. Again, like, it's creative as you want to get. You can glue rocks to anything, and you don't even have to glue rocks. I often tell people who travel a lot, just literally bring a Ziploc bag full of rocks and lay them out on the floor on a towel or something in front of the sink in the bathroom for when you're getting ready, or perhaps in front of the desk or the bed in the hotel room, just so you already get it in your life. It doesn't have to be so complicated. If using the glue and spending an hour gluing it and making a mat is like the biggest hurdle you need to get over, then just do one of the easier scenarios at first until you can feel the benefits of having rocks in your life on a more regular basis, and then you might be more inclined to sit down and actually glue the mat. And if you have kids, this is a great craft project you can do with them. As far as the glue goes, I have always used Gorilla Glue from the start. It just so happened to be the one I saw at the store when I was first doing it, and I was looking for a glue that said it was good for gluing rock surface. Not every glue is created equal and is adhesive to all materials. So you just want to make sure that the glue you're choosing is something that can be adhesive to rock. So again, stores that have like a landscaping section is usually the way to go, because often landscaping is with rocks. Some of my clients have used the like caulking material that you would use in tiling for rock tiling, and they told me that it is a little bit actually more flexible material, so they don't have as many rocks popping off as with the Gorilla Glue. So that could be a good solution for that too. I just have not gotten back to the landscaping or Home Depot store to try a different glue, and I have a ton of the Gorilla Glue left, so might as well use it up. With the Gorilla Glue, and probably most of the glue that will adhere to rock, it can adhere to your skin and is not good for your skin. So as it says on the directions, you want to use some sort of glove. I just use the latex or non-latex medical gloves. You can use rubber gloves, garden gloves, whatever you want, but just know that it needs to be a glove you don't care much about, because it's probably going to have glue on it. The other thing that you'll need, especially if you're doing it on a bath mat or flexible mat is some sort of like poster board or something that's a little bit firmer so you can place it on it, and you will transport it this way from wherever you're making the mat to wherever the mat's going to live, because you don't want to twist it, because that's when the rocks will pop off. So this is literally, you find it in the school section at the grocery store, or again, like a Target, a Walmart, whatever those kind of stores are you like to shop at. It's a project board for school, right? This is like what you would put your science fair project on. This is like $1, $2, or you can just get a standard piece of poster board, you know, like you would use for vision boards or signs. Again, it's like $2, so it's firm. You're gonna put the mat on it and then glue it while it's on here, so then you can easily transport it wherever you go. So you just have to make sure that obviously it's as big as the mat you're going to make. Know too that these get pretty heavy. You're gluing rocks to stuff, so keep that in mind when you're picking the size and picking the location and how far you need to go to transport it. So it's part of the reason too why when people ask me to make them for them, if they don't live in Arizona and can't pick it up, it is a little bit difficult to mail you a rock mat that weighs a lot. So you'll need the Gorilla Glue, poster board, whatever mat, obviously whatever rocks you've chosen. Gloves. I like to use a spatula, also from the home improvement store, to spread the glue. You'll need a wet rag or water nearby in a rag, and then of course, just in case of spills, I've got some paper towels. And I think that's really it. And it takes about an hour. So I'll do it, and you can see how simple it is. And I'll do a combination of using the fabricated ones and the loose rocks. So you're gonna wet the mat down. I just met it in sections because the Gorilla Glue works best when it has a little bit of moisture with it. So a little bit of moisture on the mat. And then spread the Gorilla Glue. If you're using the Gorilla Glue, a little goes a long way, which is why I use a spatula. Most everyone I've tried to tell how to do this makes the mistake of too much Gorilla Glue and sends me a picture of the Gorilla Glue gone crazy and really foaming all over the place and getting all over the floor and their hands and the lid of the Gorilla Glue. And so, again, a little goes a long way. I'll hold it up after I get the glue spread out so you can see. You can always add more glue at the end if you don't feel like it's enough. It's hard to take away, which is another reason of doing too little. Oh, my spatula broke. But I don't know where that came from. So, here's how much glue I have on there. Not very much, right? It's just a thin layer, just like the instructions say. And then I'm going to take some different rocks, take some of these flat ones, maybe some of the smaller, and like some pea pebbles around it. We're literally just laying it down. It's pretty mindless, which is good because if you're like me, you think too much anyways. So it ends up being kind of like almost a meditative thing to do, which is cool. Just being creative. There's a lot of benefits to creating stuff. Which is probably why we had so many art classes growing up. It's important. You can make patterns. You can get as creative as you like. So you can either pull these rocks off with these or cut them. Obviously, it takes some muscle to pull off. I'll show you cutting them too. You literally cut it down. Bee bubble around it. That's pretty much it. So we'll see you at the end, and you'll see what the finished product is, and we'll talk more about where to go from there. So now I'm pretty much done with the rock mat. So I sometimes like fill in the spaces I might have missed, or if it looks like some of the rocks didn't get quite enough glue, you can have a little glue to different spots, but you'll be surprised how much the Gorilla Glue expands and fills in all that space. I just left a little bit of the corner here. So then, with the rock mat, it takes about 24 hours to dry. Maybe a little less, but it's just, better safe than sorry, especially since this glue is so sticky. And then you can put it wherever you like, whether it's the bathroom or in front of a sink that you stand at a lot, or at work to encourage more standing at the desk instead of sitting. It's really up to you. So when cleaning up, know that whatever rag you use, you might be throwing out because it might get glued together, or that's the benefit of having some paper towels around. I broke one of my spatulas, so put it in that paper towel, and then you can clean off the nozzle of the Gorilla Glue, so you can put the cap back on it without it gluing itself to it. To store the Gorilla Glue, if you don't use all of it, you store it by squeezing all the air out of it as much as you can before you put the cap on. And that keeps it from drying up on the inside. On the spatula I use, there's some glue on it. If you don't wipe the glue off, it's not a big of a deal. It hardens, and then again, like the ice tray scenario, you just twist it around and it pops right off. So, cleanup's easy. And that's it. Good luck. Let me know how creative you get. Let me know what your mats end up looking like. I like to keep them. I show them in presentations, and I also email a lot of pictures to Philip Beach and let him know what all of my clients and people are doing that I share his information with. So it's fun to see what people come up with. People come up with some really creative stuff. Like I said, I stole the boot tray idea from Mike Boyle after he saw my mats. He just thought it was too much time to glue it all together, and was like, hey, why don't I just dump it in a tray, which was totally brilliant. Good luck, happy tray making. Remember to use as many cushions as you need to be comfortable sitting or kneeling on the ground in your rest postures, and hope you enjoy it.